Chip and Dale are two of Disney's most lovable characters. As of 2019, the mischievous chipmunks have been causing havoc and antagonizing Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, Pluto, and our other Disney favorites for 76 years. In their 7.5 decades of existence, their look, design, voice, and personality have evolved subtly over time, debuting outside of the era of advancement in animation and only having ever appeared in 24 classic shorts. Chip and Dale have perhaps seen the least number of changes of any Disney character. However, their role as comedy and action-adventure stars have led to some interesting alterations over the years. In this video, I will trace the evolution of Chip and Dale right from their first appearance in 1943 to today in 2019. To do so, we will look at all the changes the two have seen across a selection of classic shorts and television series, in this edition of Explaining Disney. 1943's wartime Pluto short, Private Pluto, would mark the first appearance of Chip and Dale. However, the two chipmunks would appear in what has, in more recent years, been referred to as a prototype appearance. In this short, Chip and Dale debut as two nameless chipmunks, whose sole purpose is to act as mischievous antagonists of Pluto while he's on guard at the army barracks. The two characters were originally created as one-offs, who would serve the purpose of acting out a bunch of funny gags for this one short, and then never intended to return again. Because of this, the two debut as fairly nondescript characters, featured in practically identical designs without any defining characteristics. In fact, both Chip and Dale are some of the only main Disney animal characters to take on somewhat realistic, non-anthropomorphized designs, which is simply down to their initial disposability. As a point of reference, it's definitely worth a note that these two chipmunks are pretty indistinguishable, not only from themselves, but from the chipmunks who appeared in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs 6 years earlier. The design here was more in line with the animal characters seen in Disney's more realistic feature films than in their cartoons. Female office staff would provide the voices for the characters in the early shorts, though they went uncredited, and the credits are still unknown today. In these shorts, the staffers would speak in their normal voice, and the soundtracks would simply be sped up. 3 years later, 1946 Mickey Mouse short Squatters' Rights would call for two animal antagonists who could frustrate Pluto and Mickey on a holiday retreat. For this purpose, Storyman decided to bring back the two chipmunk characters from Private Pluto. Again, Chip and Dale appear nameless here and in the same prototype design seen in the previous short. The two prototype chipmunks would appear once more in the 1947 animated feature film Fun and Fancy Free during the Bongo segment. Here they would be seen alongside a plethora of other woodland creatures, and though they wouldn't act as antagonists of Bongo, they still showed signs of their cheeky and playful personalities. That same year, however, the two characters would finally undergo a few changes, as they appeared in Donald Duck short Chip and Dale, finally taking on the names that we know and love them by today. At a time where Donald shorts had grown enormously in popularity, Walt Disney and his story team decided to introduce a recurring antagonist to add further narrative and comedic potential to the series. It said that instead of going to the effort of developing new characters, Walt thought it would be a great idea to once again utilize their two chipmunks. By putting the two characters at the forefront of the shorts, Storyman had to finally give them not only names, but identifiable characteristics and personalities. The chipmunk named Chip would be presented with two centered buck teeth and a small black button nose. Easy to remember as it's almost like a small chocolate chip. Chip was given a big, feisty personality and plenty of smarts, presenting him as the leader or schemer of the two. The chipmunk named Dale would be presented with two buck teeth separated by a gap and a large black nose, though it would be shown as red in the title card and would become its more traditional color in later shorts. Dale was given a more simple, laid-back personality, presented as the more clumsy, awkward, and dim-witted of the two. He would also be given a small tuft of messy hair upon his head, further emphasizing his more scruffy personality. Chip and Dale would still be featured with voices similar to those in the early shorts, with fairly unintelligible dialogue.
Oh boy, I should take care of him. And was his face red? Yeah, it looks like he wants to eat us up.
However difficult it is to understand them though, Chip and Dale certainly have actual dialogue. I'll slow that same clip down to 50%. Check this out.
Oh boy, I sure took care of him. And was his face red? Yeah, it looks like he wants to eat us up.
In their next appearance, 1948 Donald Duck short 3 for Breakfast, the two would undergo a few more small changes. Dale's nose would change from black to red as hinted at in the previous short, and Chip's coat would become a slightly darker shade of brown, further distinguishing the two characters. They would next appear in 1949 Donald Duck short All in a Nutshell, which is believed to be the first short in which classic Chip and Dale voice actors James McDonald and Desi Flynn would lend their voices to the characters respectively. This is certainly noticeable in the short, as both voices seem a lot clearer, a little slower, and a bit more understandable. Between 1949 and 1951, Chip and Dale would appear in a further 5 Donald Duck shorts, some of which are amongst Donald's most popular of all time. Across these shorts, the two characters wouldn't feature any noticeable differences, other than voices that would become slightly more understandable with each passing short in an effort to allow them to have more logical thoughts and a growing more complex personality.
Well, what do you know?
It's important to note that while most of the other classic Disney characters underwent major physical changes in their early years, this was due to the fact that they would quite simply evolve along with changing animation styles. Chip and Dale are fairly late additions to the Disney roster. Unlike many others, they were introduced well after the black and white era, and quite a while after the introduction of squash and stretch techniques in the 1930s, and artist Fred Moore's cuter, more realistic character designs of the early 1940s. While the two would feature small changes over the years, they were practically debuted in the design that would become their most recognizable and iconic. Due to their growing popularity in the Donald shorts, Chip and Dale were finally given their own short series, beginning in 1951 with Chicken in the Raft. While this short would see them as the main characters, they would still appear with their mischievous personalities antagonizing other barnyard animals. It's also notable that from this point onward in the classic shorts, Dale's nose is transitioned towards a more browny color, and the coats of both characters would become darker. Chip and Dale would only appear in 3 of their own classic shorts, which would also include 1952's Two Chips and a Miss, which would introduce female chipmunk character Clarice, and in 1954's Lone Chipmunks, which would see them face off against Disney's big bad, Pete, for the first and only time in his final classic Disney appearance. It's unclear why Chip and Dale didn't get many more of their own classic shorts, however, in my own personal opinion, this iteration of the characters certainly works best when they're antagonizing Donald or terrorizing Mickey and Pluto. In an effort to make the characters more heroic, they seem to lose a touch of their mischievous charm. I can only imagine that audiences at the time, and perhaps even Walt and his animators, felt the same way. While their own shorts weren't long-lived and were few and far between, Chip and Dale continued to cause trouble for Donald in a further 9 shorts between 1951 and 1956, and for Mickey and Pluto one final time in 1952's Pluto's Christmas Tree. Again, any changes in this period were incredibly minimal, though it's worth noting that by their final classic appearance in 1956's Donald short Chips Ahoy, their speech had become a lot slower and much more understandable than in their earlier appearances.
Hey, Dale! Get up! Look up there! It's coming after us!
Following Chips Ahoy, Chip and Dale would follow the other main Disney characters into retirement from theatrical shorts. However, in 1959, the two would appear in a Walt Disney Presents television special titled The Adventures of Chip and Dale, where they would introduce a number of their classic shorts in newly animated segments. In this, they would even get to sing their own song.
I'm Chip. I'm Dale. We're just a couple of crazy rascals.
1983's extended Mickey short, Mickey's Christmas Carol, would mark the grand return to Disney theatrical animation for most of Disney's classic characters. And of course, Chip and Dale would grace the film with their presence too, albeit in an incredibly fleeting cameo. Yeah, that was it. Though perhaps Chip and Dale's most recognisable appearance for modern audiences came in the form of 1988 television series Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, which would see the two chipmunks form their own detective agency with a group of newly introduced characters. While the characters would remain fairly mischievous, their naughtier, troublemaking side would be swapped for a kinda more gentle side, as the two fought small-scale battles for those who needed help the most, in cases deemed too small for the police. As per the original shorts, however, Chip remains the more responsible leader of the team, while Dale takes on the more blundering comic relief role who always gets the team into trouble. Here the two take on their classic designs, Dale most notably presented with his brown nose, but are given new outfits, inspired by two of the biggest action heroes of the time. Chip appears smart and heroic in a leather jacket and fedora hat just like Indiana Jones, while Dale appears a little goofier in a Hawaiian jacket reminiscent of Magnum P.I. While Chip would retain his squeaky high-pitched voice, Dale would be given a lower, raspier voice, making the characters more distinguishable in long-form programs. The series would see Tress MacNeille and Corey Burton take up voice duties for Chip and Dale respectively for the first time. They continue to be the current voice artists today.
Are you okay, Dale? Oh, yeah. Lucky it landed on my head.
In 1999 television series Mickey Mouse Works, the two would appear in a number of shorts, which would see them once again up to their old tricks, antagonizing Donald and Mickey. Here they would appear in a slightly more angular design. In 1999's Once Upon a Christmas, they would appear a number of brief times during the Donald Duck sequence in this same design. 2001 series House of Mouse would return them to their more traditional rounded design and see them in frequently recurring roles as customers of Mickey's nightclub. 2006 series Mickey Mouse Clubhouse would debut the characters in CG animation in a screen production for the very first time, where they would appear in frequently recurring roles. Here they would continue to be used in their classic design, though it's notable that Dale is once again depicted with his red nose. This same design would be used, albeit in sleeker, more refined animation, in the Clubhouse spin-off series Mickey Mouse and the Roadster Racers, and its own spin-off short series Chip and Dale's Nutty Tales. These series see Chip and Dale as auto mechanics and depict them as more mischievous than ever as they run around pestering all of our favourite Disney characters in a series of classically inspired character gags. The 2013 Paul Rudish Mickey Mouse short series has seen Chip and Dale appear only very briefly in a small number of shorts. What is incredibly interesting here is that while every other character in these shorts are given highly stylized, caricatured designs, Chip and Dale somewhat retained their classic appearances right down to their circular look, while the others take on a more angular look. I'm unsure exactly why this is the case, but it could be due to their brief appearances in the short. They do, however, appear for the first time with pie eyes, a common design feature of 1920s animation. Most recently, Chip and Dale have appeared in the Kingdom Hearts 3 game, where they are shown in their CG design as the operators of the Disney Castle Gummy Ship Garage. The two also appeared in the earlier Kingdom Hearts games, and it's worth noting that Dale appears with a much deeper voice here yet again, despite still being voiced by Burton.
Do you mean he left before you could find out?
It's certainly wonderful to see Chip and Dale continuing to cause havoc around the Disney universe, and perhaps even with more spotlight these days than ever before, and that can only be a good thing. And with that, it is over to you guys out there. I want to know, what is your favourite Chip and Dale appearance over the last 76 years? Fire away in the comments below and let me know your thoughts. If this is your first time viewing one of my videos, you like what you've seen, you'd like to see more like this in the future, then please don't forget to hit that big old subscribe button up on your screen right now, and also hit that like button down below if you're feeling extra generous. Also, don't forget to check out my many social media accounts, and please consider supporting me over on Patreon. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you have a wonderful day.